Hello to everyone at the AMORCE National Congress in France. It's a real privilege to be with all of you today. I know that there are hundreds and hundreds of citizens from localities across France here at this great Congress and local businesses, and you are tasked with the mission of the energy transition and how we take France into a circular economy. Nothing could be more important at this moment in time. Let me start by saying that GDP is slowing all over the world, and the reason is productivity has been declining all over the world for 15 years now, and the result is unemployment is very high. I don't have to tell you in France, it's high in every locale. Our economists are projecting 20 more years of low productivity and slow growth. It's clear that our economic system in the world is in a sunset. It's run out of productivity. But now, after two industrial revolutions, where we've spewed massive amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere, we now find ourselves in real-time climate change. Our ecosystems are collapsing, and our scientists tell us that we are now in the sixth extinction event of life on Earth. It doesn't even make the news. Our scientists tell us we could lose more than 50% of all the species of Earth on this little planet in the next 8 decades. The last time we had an extinction event of this magnitude was 65 million years ago. We are asleep. And of course, that's why you have this Congress today, to take us into a new, more ecologically oriented civilization. So it's clear we need a new economic vision for the world. It needs to be compelling. We need a game plan to deliver on that vision. It needs to move quickly across every locale and region of the planet. We have to be off a carbon-based civilization in less than 4 decades if we have any chance of avoiding the abyss of a total extinction event. So, what do? We need to step back and ask the question here in France, how do the great economic paradigm shifts in history occur? If we know how they occur, we're going to get a roadmap and a compass here in this Congress that can begin to move France to a new journey in the 21st century. There have been at least 7 major economic paradigm shifts in history. They're very interesting. They share a common denominator. At a moment of time, 3 defining technologies emerge in a society and converge to create a new infrastructure that fundamentally changes the way a society manages, powers, and moves economic and social life. Number 1, new communication technologies to more efficiently manage our economic and social life. That's obvious. Number 2, new sources of energy to more efficiently power our economic and social life. That's obvious. Number 3, new modes of mobility and transportation to more efficiently move our economic life. Also obvious. When communication revolutions converge with new energy regimes and new modes of transportation, it does fundamentally change the way we manage, power, and move society. Let me give you 2 quick examples. The first industrial revolution in the 19th century, second industrial revolution, 20th century. The Brits take us into the first industrial revolution with a new communication revolution. Steam power printing, big leap forward in productivity, cheap, quick print. Then the Brits lay out a telegraph system across Britain, and these 2 communication technologies converge in Britain with a completely new source of energy, coal, harvested by a new British invention, the steam engine. Then the Brits put the steam engine on rails, locomotives, national transport. First industrial revolution. 20th century, second industrial revolution, a new convergence of communication, energy, and mobility to manage, power, and move society, the United States. Centralized electricity, and especially the telephone, as important a communication revolution as the internet today. Later, radio and television. These communication technologies in the United States converge with a new source of energy, oil, plenty of cheap Texas oil. And Henry Ford put everyone on the road with the internal combustion engine. Today, we are seeing that second industrial revolution sunset. We are now on the cusp of a third industrial revolution, a new convergence of communication, energy, and mobility to manage, power, and move society. The communication revolution is already here. It's called the World Wide Web. Everybody in this conference today has a cell phone on them. 3.5 billion people now are directly connected at the speed of light at very low fixed and marginal cost. This has transformed the way we communicate. Now this World Wide Web, this digital communication revolution, is beginning to converge with a new energy revolution, solar and wind, and other renewable energies. And now this renewable energy internet is beginning to converge with a digitalized mobility and transportation internet made up of electric and fuel cell vehicles operating by near zero marginal cost solar and wind electricity. And those vehicles are going to be driverless within a few years with near zero marginal cost. These three digital internets, the communication internet, already here, converging with a digitalized renewable energy internet. Everyone in France produces your own solar, wind, and other renewable energy. Use it off-grid or send it back on a electricity internet. And these two internets, communication energy, converge with that mobility internet so that everyone in France can enjoy electric and fuel cell vehicles operating by the zero marginal cost renewable energy you generate locally. And those vehicles are going to be autonomous at very low marginal cost, and you will share them in car sharing systems. This three internets ride on top of a platform called the Internet of Things. We're putting sensors in all of the devices across France so they can communicate data. We have sensors now in the agricultural fields in all of your localities. We have sensors in smart factories and sensors in smart homes and smart cars and smart warehouses and smart roads. They're sending data. By 2030, hopefully 2035, all of France, all of Europe, the world will be connected with these sensors. We're creating, if you will, a global brain and nervous system that can actually unite the human race as a single, diverse family that can engage each other across the world at the speed of light at very low marginal cost. This is what we call glocalization, not globalization. Second industrial revolution, big global companies, centralized, operating the world from the top down, which led to the 1% and the 99%. This is glocalization, not globalization. Every locale, every neighborhood, every municipality in this conference today, in this global interconnected communication, energy, and mobility internet, this Internet of Things platform, you can engage each other all over the world, do business, social life at very low marginal cost. Some of the marginal costs brought on by digitalization are so low, it's forcing a shift into what we call the sharing economy. The sharing economy is the first new economic system to enter onto the world stage since capitalism and socialism. So it's a remarkable historical event. We now have 3.5 billion people on the internet. Pretty soon everyone will be on the Internet of Things because China has a smartphone now for $25 with more computing power than sent our astronauts to the moon. So we have 3.5 billion people now connected. And at any given time, they're in the sharing economy as well as the capitalist marketplace. They're producing and sharing their own music, their own YouTube videos, their own social blogs and news media. They're sharing, if you will, their own contribution to the knowledge of the world on Wikipedia. They are sharing massive open online college courses taught by the best professors, the best universities. All of that and the sharing economy is near zero marginal cost. So cheap, nearly free, so people can engage each other outside the marketplace, not in the GDP, but at a better quality of life. The sharing economy is actually the circular economy. That is, what we produce can be shared over and over and over, so we have to produce less, share it more. Nothing goes to landfill until it's ready to be recycled back. This is the circular economy, which is the other major part of your conference today. Energy, the sharing economy. There have been whole industries disrupted by the sharing economy, the circular economy. In the virtual realm, the music industry, television, newspapers, book publishing have been disrupted by the sharing economy, but thousands of new businesses have emerged, not just Facebook, Google, and Twitter. So across France, you have thousands of startup companies and cooperatives and nonprofits. They're creating the sharing economy, the circular economy in the virtual world. Now, we thought there'd be a firewall, and while the sharing economy, the circular economy, the new energy economy the new sharing economy would affect the virtual world, we didn't think it would go to the physical world. What I'm saying in the Zero Marginal Cost Society in the book is the Internet of Things breaks us right through the firewall. We now have people in France, right now, in the locales that are in this room, and you are producing your own solar, wind, geothermal, and other energy right now in your localities at near zero marginal cost. Within the next 25 or 30 years, everyone in the world is going to be producing their own solar and wind and other renewables at very low fixed cost and near zero marginal cost, and sharing it across electricity internets, energy internets across countries, across continents. So let's take a look at what's going on now. The reason I'm guardedly hopeful about this transition happening quickly to address climate change and restart the global economy is this. The fixed cost of solar and wind have been on an exponential curve now for nearly 20 years, just like computers. Computers used to cost millions of dollars, and there were only a few in the 1950s. But then engineers were able to double the capacity and half the cost on computer chips every 2 years, and now we have smartphones, $25. We've had a similar curve for exponential plunging costs, if you will, in solar and wind. Some of you older people remember in France that a fixed watt, one fixed watt of solar power cost $78 to produce in 1979. Today, one fixed watt solar costs 55 cents. And in 18 months from now, 35 cents. This is an extraordinary plunge in fixed costs on an exponential curve, very similar to what happened to computer chips and the computer revolution. We now have power and utility companies in Europe and America right now, in the last 12 months, who are buying long-term contracts for solar and wind electricity at 4 cents a kilowatt hour. This is remarkable. And what this means is, for the fossil fuel and nuclear industry, they're facing $100 trillion in stranded assets. That's the report of Citibank of New York last year. Because the cost of solar and wind, the fixed costs, are plummeting so quick on these exponential curves, they're becoming competitive. They're now more competitive than coal. Within a few years, they'll be cheaper than natural gas and nuclear and oil. Those exponential curves are going to continue. But what's interesting in France and across Europe and the world is once you generate your own solar and wind electricity, for example, the marginal cost of sharing that is near zero. Zero marginal cost. The sun has not sent a bill to France. The wind has not invoiced anybody in the localities in this room in France. What happens when French businesses plug in to a third industrial revolution where 5G communication internet helps process the data on the digitalized energy internet, and in all the locales in France, your local businesses are using near zero marginal cost solar and wind electricity to manage, power, and move their business across the value chain. That puts France into the cusp of a great third industrial revolution with a dramatic increase in efficiency, a dramatic spike in productivity, a dramatic plunge in ecological footprint and marginal cost. Who's producing all this new power? Well, let me use Germany as an example because it's very interesting. We have 4 major power companies in Germany: EMBW, RWE, E.ON, and Vattenfall. We actually thought they were invincible 10 or 11 years ago. But today, 35% of the electricity in Germany is zero marginal cost solar and wind. Well before 2040, it'll be 100% solar and wind and other energies that are renewable. And what's interesting is who's producing it. Small players in locales like the locales in this room today. They create electricity cooperatives across Germany. You're doing it also in France, I know. They got loans from the banks, low interest loans. They're generating all the new electricity. You're doing it in France as well. The big power companies in Germany, they're producing less than 5% of the new renewable energy. They can't scale it. They can scale centralized fossil fuel and nuclear power. But as you know, in France, the sun shines everywhere. The wind blows across France, so you have to collect it wherever the sun shines and the wind blows. That favors local municipal cooperatives and small business cooperatives and farmers cooperatives, etc. And that's happening now in France as it did in Germany. And does this mean that's the end of the power and transmission companies? Well, not necessarily, but they have to change their business model. So in the new business model, all of us will produce the power across France. It's already happening in your locales. We'll sell it back to the energy internet. The power and utility companies, they can help manage the energy internet. And they can set up partnerships with thousands of businesses, thousands of locales represented in this room. They can help you manage the data flowing through your energy system in your business. They can help you with your analytics on the data. They can help you create the algorithms and apps you will need so that you can dramatically increase your aggregate efficiency and productivity on your value system with energy and reduce your marginal cost. In return, those thousands of businesses across France can share a part of their productivity gains with the local power and transmission utilities. It's called performance contracts. This is happening now across Germany with the major power companies, and this is beginning to be part of a robust conversation, as you know, just beginning in France. This is power to the people. This is the lateral scaling of power. Every region in this room today, every local business, every municipality, every locality, you should be able to generate your own energy and share surpluses with others across an energy internet, across France, and across Europe. This can be done. The coming together of the communication internet, digital, already here, with a digitalized renewable energy internet, already emerging in locales in France, just beginning, brings together a third internet, the digitalized mobility internet. Young people, millennials today, they don't want to own cars. That's grandma and grandpa. They want car sharing in car sharing digital networks, not ownership of vehicles in old-fashioned markets. But what's interesting is for every car being shared in car sharing networks, 15 cars are being eliminated from production. Studies suggest that we'll probably eliminate 80% of all the vehicles in the world in the next 2 generations as millennials and their children move to the mobility internet and share car sharing services. The remaining 200 vehicles, they're going to be electric and fuel cell. We now have countries like France that are saying we're going to outlaw internal combustion vehicles well before 2050. You can't even buy them. And all of those electric and fuel cell vehicles across France, they're going to be electric in the next few years. They're going to be fuel cell driven as well. They're going to be 3D printed with recycled composite material already beginning. And they are going to be driverless within 5 or 6 years and autonomous at very low to zero marginal cost. So does this mean the end of the transportation industry? No, but they have to change their business model. Let me give you an example. I've worked with Daimler. They gave us the internal combustion engine that started the second industrial revolution. And we laid out this third industrial revolution model in Germany recently. And Daimler introduced the mobility internet, Daimler trucks. And they've outfitted 400,000 Daimler trucks with sensors all over the trucks on the outside. Those sensors are picking up big data across the highways of Europe on those trucks, on weather conditions, traffic, warehouse availability, and they're using that big data to help thousands of businesses on their logistics increase their efficiencies and productivity in moving their packaging from A to B across Europe. So Daimler's not leaving the second industrial revolution tomorrow morning. They're going to sell lots of trucks. But this is a 40-year transition from a sunset legacy second industrial revolution, moving towards stranded assets, to a sunrise third industrial revolution, a digital smart Europe of digital communication internet, digital renewable energy internet, digital mobility internet. And these 3 internets will ride, as I say, on top of that Internet of Things platform. What is the platform? It's every building in France, all the locales here. Go back to your cities. Every home, every office, every factory in France becomes a node in this Internet of Things. We're going to need to retrofit every building in France to make them efficient. Then we transform them into a node that connects the Internet of Things for Smart France. The buildings become, if you will, a distributed data centers. The buildings become micro power generation sites for solar, wind, etc. The buildings become charging stations for your electric vehicles and storage for your electric vehicles. And then the buildings connect like nodes across France, across Europe. The coming together of this communication internet, this energy internet for renewables, this mobility internet, makes possible a vast extension of the sharing economy. The sharing economy introduces us to the circular economy. It's one and the same. So we began to share the vehicles. So we then produce fewer vehicles, share them over and over and over. Nothing needs to go to the landfill, and if it does, we recycle and rebuild out of existing resources. We share the homes so that we use less and use them more efficiently. That's part of the circular economy. We share our virtual goods so that we distribute it over and over again and we lose less. Let me give you the best example. There are sharing toy websites now where parents bring home a toy to the child and they say that this toy, another child played with this toy and enjoyed this. Now you'll play with a toy and enjoy it, and then you'll allow another child somewhere else to play with a toy and share this. These sharing toy websites are spreading across the world. This is the circular economy. Everything we produce can be shared, the homes, the toys, the cars, and virtually everything else, and we distribute them over and over again, lower the ecological footprint, and then we recycle back what we need to do and re-engineer back into the system. The coming together of these internets is what we call Smart Europe, and this is what I want to leave you with. In February of this year, I joined together with Vice President Maros Sefcovic. He's the Vice President of the EU Energy Union. He's in charge of Smart Europe. And we joined together, he joined together with the President of the Committee of the Regions of Europe, and we announced Smart Europe. We have, the European Union has put together 631 billion euros. This is the Juncker Fund. 631 billion euros, and large parts of this fund are going to be made available to the localities in this room today across Europe, the localities, the municipalities, the regions, so that you can apply for these funds, establish a third industrial revolution smart roadmap for your region, and then use those European Commission funds and leverage them against private equity to build out your third industrial revolution digital infrastructure in your region and locale, then cross-border with all the other regions and connect all the other regions in this room across France and then across Europe. This massive fund's available to all 350 regions and localities in Europe as of right now. We have 3 test regions in place. As I said, my friend Philippe Repneau is here today. We're in our 5th year of deployment of this Smart Europe Third Industrial Revolution in Haute-de-France. We have also in our 2nd year of deployment of this Smart Europe plan in 23 cities, from Rotterdam to The Hague in the Netherlands, and now in all of Luxembourg, our financial capital. We hope some of you will visit these other sites, and we hope some of the communities that we have these infrastructure, they come and visit you. Because I know that in localities across France, you're also just beginning to take all these small pilot projects and integrate them into this new infrastructure. So we can share best case studies in French towns and regions with our counterparts in other regions in Europe. But let me say this in closing. The problem here is it's not enough just to create a pilot projects. It's not enough to have the bike paths in, or to build a solar home, or to build a 3D printing fab lab. If you don't connect them to infrastructure, you cannot create the new third industrial revolution paradigm. It's essential that all the programs that you have in place now, for your future stay in place. But you embed them by creating a regional or local roadmap so that in each region, your businesses, your civil society, your school systems, your government can come together and lay out a common infrastructure of digitalized 5G communication internet, digitalized renewable energy internet, digitalized mobility internet, atop of Internet of Things platform. That infrastructure will involve virtually every business in your region. It'll take 30, 40 years to build it out. It's a lot of business opportunity. And that infrastructure will employ lots and lots and lots of semi-skilled, skilled, and professional people to lay out that infrastructure. If you can begin to lay out this plan in each region of France with the help of EU Commission funds, France becomes the lighthouse for a digital smart Europe. And this digital smart Europe is the only way we know to address climate change. If we can move to a renewable energy society where we share the solar and wind at zero marginal cost, we're off carbon fuels. If we can move to a sharing economy where we share the cars, share the home, share the children's toys, we're in a circular economy. Everything should be redistributed, and everything should be recycled, and everything should flow back in, so that we measure not just productivity, but also regenerativity. Not just productivity, also regenerativity. And we measure our success not just by, quote, productivity and progress, but also about resilience. We need to find a way to transform the planet, regenerate the earth, make sure that this planet is here for future generations, not only our species, but also our fellow creatures who have a right to be here. So in closing, let me say this. France and Germany joined together to create the coal and steel community that started the EU. France and Germany joined together to create the Maastricht Treaty, a political union. France and Germany joined together to create the euro, a monetary union. France and Germany joined together to create the 28 states that make up the geographic union. The next stage of the European journey is Smart Europe. It'll be up to regions and localities, distributed power, regions and localities to take this and become the leads. You need to empower everyone in your community to engage in a roadmap. Cross-border with all your neighbors in this room today and other regions. Join Germany. And France and Germany together can move Smart Europe, Digital Europe, and move us to a post-carbon society quickly within 3 decades, create a more ecological civilization, put our businesses to work laying out this infrastructure, and employ lots and lots of people. This can be done tomorrow morning. I know that all of you in the room are doing bits and pieces of this, and I am guardedly hopeful that the French locales, the French regions and cities, will be our lighthouse, our flagship for regions all over Europe and all over the world. So congratulations on this National Congress, and I'm glad to be with you today to share these thoughts. Thank you.